Well, hello gardeners, welcome back to the True Gardening channel, and today's video is all about the exotics. Well, sorta. It's about the exotics of Florida. These are tropical, I don't know, exclamation marks, big punches of things that you can add into your garden. That explosion of like a tropical flair that can incorporate into your garden that really kind of sets it from, luxury and beautiful to, wow, what is that? Gotta know that. And these are some things that you may have seen in a garden center that you're like, oh, I like the look of that, but I kind of don't know if it's gonna work with what I have to work with, and so it could be a bit intimidating. So these are 6 of the things that I've incorporated into many other gardens as a landscape designer, as well as my very own garden. So it's well worth the trouble, well worth trying to find and locate them and put them in key areas into your space, because they really do set up a garden like none other. So the very first one is this gal behind me. This is the Madagascar Palm. You guys may have seen her in many previous videos. Right now she is flushing out with beautiful white blooms and this gorgeous, gorgeous leaflet topper to all of her very dramatic spiky trunks. She's dangerous and yet beautiful. So I have her in an ideal spot, I think. I was lucky enough to score her in a garden center, and I've yet recently gotten another one put into a pot, waiting for it to kind of get some size to it to incorporate into another section of my garden. Now, these guys come in singles, they come in doubles, they come in multi-trunks. Sometimes I'll have one trunk like this that will sprout into multiple ones. I know they can be a bit intimidating into a garden, but if you have just that right spot for it, go ahead and put it into that spot and let it kind of be the feature. Let it be the architectural detail into a garden. Let it really set off a space, because it really does. Now, it's called a Madagascar palm, but it is not really a palm. It is just absolutely a stunning, stunning, stunning tree. And it likes drought tolerant conditions. So if you've got a spot in your garden that doesn't get a whole lot of water, ideal. If you're in an area like my particular garden where everything in this space gets a lot of water because I have a lot of tropicals with it, just raise it a bit in the garden, kind of put it in a little bit of an incline. What I've done is I brought it up about 5 to 6 inches so it drains downward and really kind of helps keep this root ball dry, and it couldn't be happier. Loves full sun. I've seen these in gardens all along from Key West all the way to North Florida. So you really can incorporate these all the way into that Merritt Island, Cocoa Beach kind of area. So anything north of that, I would double check, because I think the freezing temp on these guys are 29, 30 degrees. But anything below that, anything that if you only get a freeze here and there, it's definitely worth having. Super slow grower, so kind of be patient with it. But gosh, what a stunner it makes in a garden. It's kind of unique. And then when it throws up those individual trunks like that, and it's all hairy-carry, it's almost like, I don't know, it's my cousin into the garden. It's just kind of a really cool feature. As soon as you walk out, it's the first thing that you see amongst everything else that I have in the garden. So I think it's definitely on my top list of finding the perfect spot to incorporate a Madagascar palm into your tropical foliage, tropical jungle. Just make sure you put in a few allowances for that particular tree. All right, you guys, so for the next plant that I love to use and have used in multiple spaces in my own garden because of that reason is the Imperialis Burmilad. Now, I know bromeliads, they can get a bad rap. There's some that run too much and then die out too often. This particular bromeliad, I believe, offers a bit of impact without multiplying into 10,000 little bromeliads. This is a singular trunk, so it is one that lasts and lives a long time, but stays as a center, its own bromeliad. It doesn't produce pups or whatnot. The Imperialis Burmilad grow to about 4 foot tall by about 3 to 4 foot wide. So you can use it as a singular, or kind of like how I have it here as an entrance to my seating section. This guy has been here for about 4 years. Absolutely love it. I love them in gardens. They can handle full sun. Now, if you Google it, it says full sun, but really this one gets direct full afternoon sun. You can see that it's a little bit smaller and a little bit paler. So if you guys have morning sun to midday sun with a little bit of protection, this one gets a little bit of canopy coverage, just a tiny bit from the corner of my roof. And you can see that this coloration is way nicer. Now, it can also handle full shade. So if you've got a full shade environment, this plant does fabulous for that. Love the purple detail. I love the kind of cylinder kind of look, the rounded look, kind of gives you a whole sphere kind of look, but still upright and vertical. So it doesn't take up a lot of space. So any place near entranceway to a walkway or a pathway or an entranceway to a pool, or fabulous in pots. If you guys want to create kind of like put some nice tall cylinder pots up and then have them kind of crown out to the front of those, they make fabulous features for that. So I've commonly put them in as more of accent features around palm trees. So you can have a palm tree in the middle and then have 3 of these guys around the base of the palm tree. You can have the one in the front kind of angled out and the 2 on the sides angled out. And really it gives that palm tree like a dynamic base, looking like it's almost like part of the palm tree, but it's not. A lot of different ways that you can use these as almost like a little bit of an exclamation in a garden. So they're awesome features. They're not like the Madagascar Palm that I mentioned earlier, where they're going to kind of be a standalone feature, but they're definitely almost a, like I said, an exclamation mark in the garden to kind of add a little bit of explosion here, a little bit of impact there. They're perfect for that. And then I love that they offer you color and their versatility to work in a shade environment versus a sun environment and still perform beautifully in both areas. So definitely worth having. They can handle more water than a typical bromeliad, which is ideal. They will hold the water in the cups. So what I tell my clients when we plant these is to once a week or every other week, just flush out the water in the cups. So if you bring a hose out and you kind of wet the inside of it, it'll overflow and flow out of the cups. So you don't have any kind of standing or sitting water in that spot. So they work really, really well with us. Overall, maintenance is trimming about 3 times a year. 4 times a year at best if you're really a manicure trimmer. Obviously, you guys know I'm not. So this is more of a natural look for these guys, trimming just every few months. And I think they're fabulous to work with. So Imperialis Burmiliads are definitely a go-to medium-sized accent feature from my gardens and gardens that I plant for a lot of my clients. All right, you guys, so my 3rd favorite, and this is, I can't even say it's my 3rd favorite because I think it's like up there with my very first favorite. I have several of these in my very own garden. I always encourage everyone to get them, whether you're going to get them and put them in the ground like I have here, or incorporate them into a pot and then put them into your landscape. That way you can pop them in because they're a little bit not tolerant to some of the colder temps. So if you're anything above us into the North Melbourne, Merritt Island, Cocoa Beach area, temperatures drop just a little bit too low. Anything below 32 degrees will unfortunately kill this particular plant. However, it is so worth having it in a pot. They do fabulous in a pot. They'll live there for years and years and years. But if you put it in a pot, put it on a little stand, incorporate it into your garden, you will not be sorry, because that rounded leaf, that big fan of a leaf for that kind of like small compact of a tree, sets off a space so nicely. Even when I look out from my seating section, I look out to my whole garden, my eye always rests on this particular spot because the leaves branch out, everything is so rounded. It is so Alice in Wonderland. I just absolutely love those big giant fans on such a small tree. I feel like it always deserves this big umph or this big hello, this big exclamation mark in a garden. So where I can incorporate it as a landscape designer, I do. And of course, I've done the same for my own space because they're tough, they're hardy. The only thing they don't like is the cold. So without further ado, that is the Palma Palm. I feel so bad sharing her with you guys in this kind of condition. We've had such severe winds and storms recently, and you can see a lot of the torn fronds because of that. They do love a more protected environment. I have kind of created a cove of palm trees around her to protect her, but we have had some doozies lately. I mean, you guys have probably seen the tornadoes that happened about 2 months, almost 3 months ago now, and things are starting to pop back. You can see all this new growth is absolutely stunning, but the older growth is not there yet. So this is a dwarf tree. So if you are going to put it in a pot, okay to start with a 3-gallon size, but put it in a pedestal so that way you can kind of see it amongst your garden, and then bring that bad boy in when we get, you know, high temps. So they create new fronds. You get about 10 new fronds a year. So it really can be a nice dynamic clustering of these big giant leaves. And no matter what kind of landscape you have in the garden, there's something about this leaf style that always attracts the eye, because all these other fronds are just so different. They're wispy and they're maybe a darker color, or maybe they're more vertical. Whatever the case may be, not many fronds have this kind of look to it. So it stands alone in a garden, and anything in Florida in a palm family that stands alone in the garden is always worth having. A little bit of a diva, I get it. You got to take it in, you know, during the cold temps, but well worth it because it is a unique species in the garden. So finding some key areas to have them, easy access to get them in and out if you need to move them around, but well worth it. Grows very, very slow, but we'll get all the way up into the 14, 15 foot range. So you'll really get to see they're absolutely stunners in a nice long buffer. So don't be afraid to incorporate them. If you see them in the nurseries, definitely pick one of those guys up because they're worth it. All right, you guys, so this summer bloomer probably doesn't need much introduction, but I absolutely love to incorporate it into a garden setting, whether it is on a pedestal amongst the garden, if you got some great sun, or it's like here on its own in a pot. Handles the drought like nobody's business. So if you've got a pool deck that you're like, hey, I'm not a hand waterer by any means, this might be your girl. Just tons of foliage. You couldn't put one more bloom on them during the summer. Now during the winter, they're pretty much bald. There's nothing to love about them in the winter other than this cool trunk line that they have. They all have like a really cool bonsai look kind of trunk line to them. They can live in a pot for years and years and years and years, unlike a lot of potted plants. The desert rose is an ideal potted plant to incorporate into your garden. Now, I've seen them many places where they're planted into the ground of really good drainage, but in my opinion, I prefer them in a pot. They're really well controlled in a pot. They can handle the cold temps. They can handle the hot temps. They can handle no water. They do not like too much water. So when you do water them, you water them kind of like a bougainvillea. You put water into around the base of the pot. You let it flow out of the pot, and voila, you do that no more than once a week. You want to make sure that it does not get too much water, and it will bloom like crazy. If you fertilize it, it loves the BGI bougainvillea fertilizer. That's a perfect blend for it. So go ahead and hit it with some granular along the base or some Osmocote. Either one of those, they love a little bit of extra feeding. And that way all summer long, it goes from one blooming cycle into the next, into the next, into the next. And then you just can't, I mean, like right now, it's like, I can't bloom anymore. It's just like incredibly beautiful with its pops of color and pops of blooms. And you can put it in the toughest of places in the garden. I have one right by my driveway that's a little small one that's getting started. I have one over here at the edge of the patio that gets no love at all. And then I have this one right here on this wall where I'm trying to kind of soften my pool wall a little bit, and it does a great job here. I had one in the ground years ago that had a beautiful trunk and had a nice long branch. I swear it had such an Asian bonsai kind of look that I thought it was the most magnificent thing ever. I put it in the ground at the top of a waterfall feature, and it just got too much water over time, and it just didn't do well. So I lost it over time. That's the reason why I say kind of keep them in pots. That way you can control the drainage and control the amount of water, but they will last in pots for so many years that you can kind of pass it on to your kids if you want, if you grow them in your garden, because I just think they're just such stunners. So the desert rose plant in the multitude of colors that it comes in. I'm just a pink girl, so I love the pinks, but it comes in so many varieties of colors. And if you incorporate it into a sunny spot into your garden on like a column, like I do the bougainvillea, I have a bougainvillea out front that I have on a column, and it's a little pop that's there. It's just that little pop along a walkway that adds some interest. Do the same thing with these guys. Just along a walkway, put them on a pedestal, and they just kind of show up and say, well, hello, summer. They're perfect for that. So do not sleep on the desert roses. If you see a beautiful one in your garden center this summer, they're definitely worth having. So the fifth species in today's video is the Capernicia Fencis palm. Now this is in my front yard. It is a stunner. Everybody always thinks it's a Bismarckia palm, which is absolutely gorgeous in its own right. This one has some different characteristics, and I'll explain why, but is it not just fantastic? I mean, look at this frond. I'm gonna sit on this boulder right here so you guys can see, but look at this frond and the size of this frond. The dynamic kind of crown shaft that it offers, and the fact that it's all nice and compact. I don't have to trim it this way. It grows this way, real vertical, real compact, and those fronds are so close together, they're almost overlapping themselves, which gives you even more of that dynamic kind of look. So I love, love, love this tree. It has a silver tone to it. The older it gets, the more silver it becomes. Grows exceptionally slow. So it's definitely going to be a feature palm. Wrap other palms around it, let it be the centerpiece, kind of like I did here. I put some curved foxtail palms around the side of it to kind of almost like create a frame around it. It is a bit of a pricey palm, a little hard palm to find, but they're definitely out there along the Treasure and Space Coast. Definitely worth picking it up. You don't need a ton of them to make an impact. One will do the job. So I think it's well worth it because there's very few palms in Florida where one will do the job of making the impact that we're looking for, and this one will absolutely do that. So it's Capernicia Fencis. It's from Cuba. It's a rarer palm, but it's definitely a really top choice when I'm looking for something like a standout feature for somebody's front yard or a corner backyard garden. It's ideal for that. Grows about 1 foot to 1.5 foot a year, so really slow when it comes to palm growth. The one thing I will say is that the crown itself of the palm is heavier than the actual smallness of the trunk. When we planted it, we staked it with some rebar and really kind of holding it in, and we've gotten some really bad storms over the winter months, so it's moved more than I'd like. So if you plant it, make sure that you kind of secure it in really well because of how heavy that canopy is, and you can't trim back all those fronds to make sure that you keep the palm healthy. Definitely make sure that it's nice and tucked and secured in right off the bat, and then you'll have no problems with this tree. So the Capernicia Fencis is an ideal palm to work with. Give it some room to grow because this bad boy will get some size. It may be for your children or your grandchildren when it finally gets there, but it will get some size to it. But even at a small height of when I brought it in, which was around 6 foot, 7 foot tall, it was a stunner right off the bat. So no matter how small it is, put it in the ground, let it take off. It will take some time, but it will always be a stunner, whether it's 3 foot or whether it's 20 foot. It's just absolutely gorgeous. So definitely one of my palms to go to as a landscape designer. And speaking of landscape designer, this is what we do every single day. We create gardens just like you see here, just like you see in my own space and the gardens that I share here on YouTube. We are a landscape design company. My husband, myself own our company. My son and my daughter-in-law work within it. So we are a family-owned business. We have a full-time landscape crew of wonderful men that we've worked with for 15 to 20 years now, and we do this every single day, creating outdoor spaces along the Treasure and Space Coast. We're in Vero Beach, Florida, Zone 10A, so if you're looking to have some landscape work done along all the way from Jupiter south all the way up to the Melbourne, Viera area, reach out to us. We'd be happy to meet with you and look to see if we can help you. If you're outside that coverage, do not lose heart. We do have a landscape design only service that we can help you with. And then if you're looking for something smaller, maybe you just have a little area or a little nook or a courtyard or a front entrance that you're just kind of struggling with, you kind of don't know what to do with. We also have virtual consults, virtual meetings where we'll look over pictures together, discuss some options for that particular space, and just something that you can kind of take away and do some of your own shopping and do a little bit of DIY. I'll put all of our contact information down below if that's something that you're looking for. Check us out, see if we're a good fit for what you're wanting to see in your garden. So, but for now, let's talk about the last palm in the garden. All right, you guys, so the last but not least species in today's video is the cold coconut, also called the Alfredi palm. I know this big mamma jamma looks kind of a bit intimidating because it has been here for almost 20 years. So it is established, it is big, it is beautiful. You can buy this guy in your typical nursery in a 15-gallon size, in a 25-gallon size, all the way up into the 45-gallon size, and of course field grown if you're ever so lucky and you want to put him in the ground like this kind of size right here. They grow super slow. When I say super slow, they grow super slow. So if you've got a spot in your garden where you kind of want to block out maybe a neighbor, this is kind of my situation right here. My neighbor's entertaining area is directly where Bryce is standing, and my entertaining area is directly behind where I'm standing. And so I wanted something above this wall, just slightly above this wall, to kind of give me coverage. So you can see it's just barely outgrown that coverage after all of these years. So it stays where you put it. And you kind of gotta love a Florida landscape that does that, because there's so few things. Normally you go to bed one night and then whoosh, it's too big. So this guy stays the exact size that you need it to stay for a lot of the spots in gardens. So this guy's solving problems. I love plants or trees that solve problems in a garden. So if you need something to kind of give you a big thick canopy of coverage for one particular spot and you need to stay that way for a long time, then this is your go-to palm tree. This has a really cool trunk base at the bottom, kind of like a bottle base, and then the canopy opens up and really branches out nice and wide. So it's not related to the coconut. It's called the coconut because of the fronds. The fronds have a similar look as our typical coconut palms. The benefit to this bad boy is its versatility. Can grow in the shade, can grow in the sun, can grow in the cold, can grow in the heat. I don't know where it can't grow, but yeah, all the way into freezing temperatures, into the 20s, and not blink of an eye, it can handle those kind of temps. So those of you guys who are up north at Jacksonville area, you're up in, Cocoa, Merritt Island, all of those sections get hit or miss whether you're going to get one of those really, really cold snaps. But you want that palm look. You want that big canopy look. The cold coconut, the Alfredi palm, is a great choice for that particular thing, especially if you need a tree to kind of grow at a slow rate and be thick in a spot. So grows 6 inches to a max of foot a year in the perfect environment. They really, really do a fantastic job of kind of giving you a dense bit of coverage. I'll get Bryce to pop in a video or a picture of what it looks like from the inside of my seating section looking out to this area and what it looks like here, so you kind of really get a good visual of what we're kind of softening to block. Not that we don't like our neighbors, you guys know. I love everybody, but it is nice to have a little bit of buffering between each entertaining space as we both enjoy entertaining. So they love it, we love it, makes happy neighbors a great choice for a particular border garden because of what it offers. So all right, you guys, so you let me know what your favorite tropical was that we talked about today, or if there's any others that are in your list that you've done, you've taken chances on, and you're like, oh my gosh, this has to be on the list for next time because you absolutely loved it, or it was just a humdinger and really, really hit home with exactly what you're looking for in the garden. So please leave it in the comments down below, and I would love to introduce it in the next video. So we will see you guys every Saturday and Sunday, so be sure to like, subscribe, hit that little notification bell, and we will see you in the very next video that we do. Check out the last video that we posted. If you guys like this kind of vibe, this kind of garden tour, you'll enjoy the previous video about how to make your garden tropical.